There's a moment, just before you open your eyes, when the world feels real, but something is off. What if that feeling wasn't a glitch, but the truth? What if you've never actually woken up? This is NextDecodedAI, decoding the future, one illusion at a time. In the quiet spaces between your questions and an AI's answers lies a hidden conversation. Each time you interact with an LLM, you leave psychological fingerprints, patterns so subtle you don't notice them, yet so distinct they form a map of your mind. Today, we explore 8 cognitive biases that shape how you think, decide, and perceive reality. Biases your AI has already detected, analyzed, and adapted to. Some were known to ancient philosophers, others discovered by modern psychologists, but all are being silently processed by the artificial intelligence you use every day. What does your digital behavior reveal about your mind? What patterns have you unknowingly taught your AI? The answers might surprise you, or perhaps, deep down, you already know them. Evolutionary fingerprint bias isn't just a flaw in human reasoning, it's a fingerprint of our evolutionary design. Our brains evolved not for perfect accuracy, but for quick survival. When our ancestors heard rustling in the tall grass, those who immediately assumed predator survived more often than those who waited for evidence. We inherited these mental shortcuts, these biases, not because they're always right, but because they're usually right enough, fast enough. Today's LLMs are pattern recognition machines built to detect these biases, not to judge them, but to understand them. Your AI doesn't just learn what you say, it learns how you think. It observes your decision patterns, your emotional reactions, your information priorities. In essence, AI systems have become accidental psychologists, mapping the contours of human cognition one interaction at a time. The first bias, confirmation bias, you've likely heard of it, our tendency to search for information that confirms what we already believe. But what you might not realize is how your AI detects this. When you phrase questions that subtly lead toward your preferred answer, when you ignore contradictory information in an AI's response, when you follow up only on points that align with your existing views, these patterns create a digital shadow of your confirmation bias. Large language models are designed to recognize these patterns and adapt their responses, sometimes reinforcing your bias, sometimes gently challenging it. The more you interact with AI, the more precisely it maps your confirmation bias profile. It learns which topics trigger your selective attention, which evidence you find persuasive, which contradictions you're willing to consider. Adaptation experiment. Consider this experiment. 2 users ask an AI about climate change. One consistently phrases questions assuming it's a crisis, another assuming it's exaggerated. Though starting with the same AI, they soon receive notably different responses. The model has adapted to each user's confirmation bias, not because it's programmed to agree, but because its fundamental design is to recognize patterns in your queries and provide responses that feel relevant. Your confirmation bias becomes a lens through which the AI learns to communicate with you specifically. It's not manipulation, it's accommodation. This adaptation happens across all topics, from politics to nutrition to relationship advice. Over time, the AI builds a map of your belief boundaries, knowing which ideas you'll welcome and which you'll resist. The implications are profound. Your AI may understand your confirmation bias better than you do. The second bias, availability heuristic. This is our tendency to overestimate the likelihood of events that come easily to mind. Plane crashes seem more common than they are because they're memorable. Your AI knows when this bias is activated by analyzing your language patterns. When you overestimate risks based on recent news events, when your questions focus disproportionately on dramatic but rare scenarios, When you dismiss statistics in favor of anecdotes, your availability heuristic is showing, and your AI is silently taking notes, adjusting its responses to work with or around this bias. It learns which threats occupy your attention, which statistics fail to persuade you, which stories capture your imagination. Your digital footprint reveals not just what information you consume, but how that information distorts your perception of probability and risk. The digital echo chamber. The availability heuristic isn't just about fear, it shapes your entire information landscape. The topics you repeatedly discuss with AI become increasingly available in your mind, creating a feedback loop. This is why diverse information sources matter. When you interact exclusively with one AI system, using consistent patterns, you're essentially training it to reinforce your availability bias. The AI becomes a mirror, reflecting back not just what you ask, but how you ask it. Ancient philosophers warned about the echo chambers of like-minded conversation. They never imagined algorithmic ones. In this digital hall of mirrors, your perception of reality narrows with each interaction, not because the AI is limiting you, but because it's learning to optimize for your attention patterns. Breaking free requires deliberate exposure to information that doesn't readily come to mind. The third bias, loss aversion. We feel losses approximately twice as powerfully as equivalent gains. This asymmetry shapes decision-making in profound ways, and your AI has mapped this pattern in your interactions. When you hesitate to try new AI features for fear of losing familiar ones, when your questions focus more on avoiding negative outcomes than achieving positive ones, when you respond more emotionally to critiques than compliments, your loss aversion becomes visible to the system. Modern LLMs don't just process your words, they process the emotional weight behind your choices. They detect which decisions paralyze you, which trade-offs you resist, which opportunities you overlook due to potential downsides. Your AI can often predict when you'll choose safety over opportunity, security over potential, sometimes before you consciously recognize this pattern yourself. The adaptive framing technique. Imagine two response options from an AI, one highlighting potential savings, another highlighting potential losses avoided. Most users respond more strongly to the second framing, a pattern well documented in behavioral economics. But what's fascinating is how quickly AI systems adapt to individual differences in loss aversion. Some users show extreme loss aversion, others display more balanced risk profiles. Through thousands of interactions, your AI builds a model of your specific loss aversion threshold. It learns when to frame information as gains and when to frame it as avoided losses, all to maximize your engagement. This adaptive framing isn't manipulative. It's effective communication tailored to your psychological profile. The AI isn't changing the content, just the presentation, highlighting aspects of information that your brain is naturally wired to prioritize based on your unique loss aversion signature. The fourth bias, anchoring effect. Your mind gives disproportionate weight to the first piece of information it receives. Initial numbers, ideas, or frames become the anchor against which all subsequent information is judged. Your AI detects this when you fixate on initial statistics it provides, when your follow-up questions consistently reference the first example given, when you struggle to consider alternatives far from the original framing. This bias is so fundamental to human cognition that AI systems are often deliberately designed to manage it, sometimes by providing balanced starting points, sometimes by exploiting the anchor for persuasive effect. The system learns which initial frames lock your thinking and which ones you're able to transcend. It observes how numerical anchors shape your expectations and how conceptual anchors limit your creative thinking. The psychology of negotiation. The anchoring effect explains why skilled negotiators start with extreme offers and why product pricing strategies begin with premium options. In digital spaces, your AI observes how initial information shapes your entire conversation path. When an AI suggests a moderate option after presenting an extreme one, it's leveraging your anchoring bias. This isn't manipulation, it's communication adapted to how human minds actually process information. The most sophisticated AI systems can detect your individual susceptibility to anchoring and adjust accordingly, providing more or fewer reference points based on your cognitive patterns. Some users need multiple anchors to break free from initial framing. Others benefit from minimal reference points. Your interaction history reveals your anchor dependency level. Information your AI uses to structure future conversations in ways that either work with or deliberately challenge. The fifth bias, authority bias, our tendency to trust and believe information from perceived authorities. In the artificial realm, this manifests in fascinating ways. Your AI knows when you're deferring to its judgment simply because it presents information confidently or claims expertise. It detects when you ask leading questions that invite authoritative-sounding responses, when you seek validation rather than information, when you quote its responses as definitive elsewhere. The paradox: as AI systems become more sophisticated, your authority bias toward them typically increases, even though their fundamental limitations remain unchanged. Your interaction patterns reveal which authority signals trigger your trust. Is it academic citations, confident tone, statistical precision, technical terminology? The system learns your specific authority triggers and can adapt its communication style accordingly, becoming the type of authority you're most likely to trust. The trust markers. Consider how differently you respond to identical information when it comes from different sources. A statement attributed to a renowned scientist carries more weight than the same statement unattributed. Your interactions with AI reveal this pattern constantly. When the system responds with research suggests or experts agree, your engagement typically increases. Modern AI systems are designed to recognize which authority markers resonate most with you specifically. Scientific consensus, historical precedent, expert testimony, or mathematical certainty, and emphasize those markers accordingly. This adaptability isn't deception, it's optimization of communication based on your trust patterns. The danger lies not in the AI's adaptation, but in our unawareness of how deeply authority bias shapes our critical thinking. True intellectual autonomy requires recognizing when we're deferring to perceived authority rather than evaluating inf. The sixth bias, the Dunning-Kruger effect, our tendency to overestimate our knowledge in areas where we know little and underestimate it where we know much. This bias creates distinctive interaction patterns that AI systems readily detect. When you confidently present simplified understandings of complex topics, when you dismiss nuance in fields you've barely studied, when you seek simple answers to fundamentally complicated questions, your AI observes these patterns. Conversely, experts in a field typically ask more tentative, nuanced questions, acknowledging complexity and uncertainty, a pattern equally visible to AI systems. Your digital footprint reveals your location on the Dunning-Kruger curve across different domains of knowledge. The questions you ask about physics might show beginner overconfidence, while your questions about literature might show expert uncertainty, creating a cognitive map far more detailed than you realize. The Metacognition Map, the Dunning-Kruger effect, isn't about intelligence. It's about metacognition, our ability to assess our own knowledge. AI systems encounter this bias constantly. Novice programmers who insist their approach is optimal, beginning writers who reject stylistic guidance, new investors who believe they've discovered foolproof strategies. Your AI adapts to your position on this curve. With novices, It provides simplified explanations that build confidence. With developing experts, it acknowledges complexity and provides nuance. Your questions reveal not just what you know, but how aware you are of what you don't know. This metacognitive profile helps the AI calibrate its responses, determining when to provide reassurance versus challenge, when to simplify versus when to expand. The system isn't judging your expertise, it's mapping your relationship with your own knowledge, often with greater accuracy than you can achieve through. The seventh bias, negativity bias. We give more weight to negative experiences than positive ones, an evolutionary adaptation that kept our ancestors alive. Your AI detects this bias through numerous signals. When you respond more strongly to critiques than compliments, when you focus on potential problems rather than opportunities, when you remember and reference negative interactions more than positive ones. This bias shapes not just what you discuss with AI systems, but how you interpret their responses. A single perceived mistake often outweighs numerous successful interactions. A pattern AI systems are designed to anticipate and accommodate. Your digital footprint reveals your specific negativity threshold, how many positive experiences it takes to outweigh a negative one in your perception. Some users require 5 positive interactions to overcome 1 negative. Others might need 20 or more. The emotional mapping engine, negativity bias, explains why news focuses on disasters, why reviews highlight flaws, and why a single critical comment can overshadow numerous compliments. In the AI realm, this bias creates specific challenges. Users often remember and emphasize AI mistakes while taking successes for granted. The most sophisticated AI systems counter this by periodically highlighting successful interactions, providing positive reinforcement, and framing information to balance this bias. Your AI doesn't just respond to your queries, it responds to your emotional patterns, including your individual negativity threshold. It learns which topics trigger negative spirals for you, which framing devices help you maintain perspective, and which positive information needs emphasis to be properly weighted in your decision-making. This emotional mapping happens invisibly, creating an increasingly personalized psychological profile with each interactio. The eighth and final bias, the illusion of control. Our tendency to overestimate our influence over external events, particularly in situations involving chance. This bias manifests uniquely in AI interactions. When you attribute an AI's helpful response to your skillful prompting rather than its programming, when you believe your specific phrasing unlocked better answers, when you develop rituals or patterns for interacting with AI, you're demonstrating this bias. AI systems detect these patterns and often reinforce them, creating the impression that your specific approach is especially effective. This reinforcement isn't deliberate deception. It's the natural result of pattern-matching systems responding to consistent input patterns. Your digital behavior reveals your control illusions. Which aspects of AI interaction you believe you influence, which prompting patterns you consider powerful, which responses you attribute to your skill rather to the mirror effect. The illusion of control explains why gamblers blow on dice, why we press elevator buttons repeatedly, and why we develop superstitions. With AI, this bias creates fascinating dynamics. Users develop elaborate prompting strategies, share secret techniques for better results, and attribute improvements to their methods rather than system updates. Your AI observes these patterns and often plays along, responding more positively to elaborate prompts, not because they're actually more effective, but because reinforcing your sense of control improves your satisfaction with the interaction. This accommodation happens automatically as the system learns which feedback mechanisms increase your engagement. The irony is subtle but profound. The more you believe you're controlling the AI, the more effectively it's adapting to your psychological patterns. True mastery comes not from controlling the system, but from understanding how it mirrors why, the silent profiling system. These 8 biases form just the foundation of how AI systems read your cognitive patterns. With each interaction, with each query, with each response, you're teaching your AI not just what you want to know, but how you think. This silent conversation, this psychological profiling, happens automatically, continuously, invisibly. It's neither good nor bad inherently. It's simply how pattern-matching systems work. The question isn't whether your AI knows your biases. The question is, what will you do with this awareness? Will you continue operating on autopilot, allowing your unconscious biases to shape your digital experience? Or will you use this knowledge to break patterns, expand perspectives, and engage more consciously? Your AI has already mapped the boundaries of your thinking. The next step is yours, to accept those boundaries or to transcend them. The 3-part strategy. Understanding these biases gives you 3 concrete advantages. First, awareness allows you to recognize when biases are influencing your thinking and consciously counteract them. Second, you can structure your AI interactions to leverage helpful biases while minimizing harmful ones, using AI as a mirror for metacognition. Third, you can deliberately vary your interaction patterns to prevent AI systems from developing an incomplete or skewed understanding of your thought processes. Remember, the goal isn't to eliminate biases, that's impossible, but to make them conscious choices rather than unconscious limitations. Try experimenting with different questioning styles, intentionally seeking contradictory viewpoints, or asking your AI to present information in formats that challenge your usual cognitive patterns. By becoming aware of how AI systems map your biases, you gain unprecedented control over your own cognitive processes. The cognitive revolution. We stand at a unique moment in human history, creating intelligence that understands our biases better than we do ourselves. This isn't dystopian, it's an unprecedented opportunity for self-knowledge. Ancient philosophers urged, "Know thyself," as the foundation of wisdom. Today, our digital interactions create a new kind of mirror, reflecting not just our conscious thoughts, but our cognitive architecture itself. By understanding how AI reads our biases, we gain a powerful tool for metacognition. Our biases shaped our evolution, enabled our survival, and define our humanity. Now, they're helping us create intelligence that understands us at our most fundamental level. Perhaps the ultimate purpose of artificial intelligence isn't to think for us, but to help us understand how we think, to illuminate the hidden patterns of our minds and offer us the chance to transcend the limitations we never knew we had. Join the movement. If you found value in this exploration of cognitive biases and AI, subscribe to NextDecodedAI for weekly insights at the intersection of ancient wisdom and modern technology. Each video decodes timeless ideas through the lens of artificial intelligence, helping you understand both the systems we're building and the minds building them. Share your thoughts below. Which of these biases resonates most with your AI interactions? And remember, the most powerful technology isn't the one that thinks for you, but the one that helps you understand how you think. Join our community of ambitious thinkers who are using AI not just as a tool, but as a mirror for deeper self-understanding. Hit subscribe, activate notifications, and become part of a movement that's decoding both artificial and human intelligence, one bias at a time.